April 25th, 2024, when the New England Patriots are on the clock at the 2024 NFL Draft, they select out of the University of North Carolina Drake May, quarterback, to be the new hope and hype under center, hopefully for years to come in Foxborough for your New England Patriots. Drake May joins veteran Jacoby Brissett back on a one-year, $8 million deal, having previously signed just a few weeks prior, as well as incumbent veteran, third-year quarterback Bailey Zappe out of Western Kentucky, who started the final 6 games of the 2023 campaign, and sixth-round cannon arm Joe Milton out of the University of Tennessee. All signs point to Jacoby Brissett being the starter. For how many games? Well, that's up for debate, and we'll figure out as camp and the season progresses. But this is Drake May's job, possibly in the now and certainly for the long term and future. However, today, on another episode of What If Wednesday here on Six Rings and Football Things with your old pals, Nick Fitzy Stevens and Andy Jumbo Hart, we ask you this question. And if ever there was a time to play radio, the time to play radio and have fun with havoc and hypotheticals, it's now. What if Bailey Zappe actually ends up the best quarterback coming out of 2024 Patriots training camp? Now, I know this seems far-fetched because at times Bailey Zappe has looked like the best quarterback on the roster. More often than not, it's been Jacoby Brissett, although at times, as Andy Hart can attest, it's actually been Drake May as well. A recent story in The Athletic, which we discussed yesterday on our podcast, said that Jacoby Brissett is the starter by default, and it would take a spectacular camp for Drake May to unseat him. And yet, Andy, there's that plucky little fella who also was in attendance at Tom Brady night. I saw him there, T-shirt and jeans, beverage in hand, taking in all the goatly celebrations. Bailey Zappe has not been dismissed. He has not been traded. He has not been released or relegated. He's still on the roster, possibly just to be a live camp arm, possibly just for any veteran savvy he could pass along to Drake May, although it seems like the kid's got plenty of pluck and moxie of his own. So what if by any strange chance they go into camp and Bailey Zappe looks like the best quarterback? Hey, New England Patriots, what do you do?
So, first of all, I want to say I think there's less than 1% chance of this happening.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
You got to leave it open. As long as he's on the roster, we've seen crazier things in sports. We didn't see Zappe fever and Zappe mania coming, and that arrived, and it disrupted the whole season and Mac Jones' career and maybe mental stability, for all I know. There was a lot that went into that.
That's a good point. Maybe that's when that's when Zappe fever could very well be in the 30 for 30 to come years from now, or the Mac Jones football life. That'll never happen. It may have been Zappe fever, the parents leaving the stadium on that infamous Monday night. Yep. Wow.
Fans chanting. It's almost like, you ever go to the doctor, and I've had this experience, and he's like, so you got bit by a tick, huh? And you're like, excuse me? I got bit by a what? When did I get bit by a tick? And he's like, I'm just telling you, your blood work says you've been bit by a tick. It's almost like Zappe bit Mac Jones, but he didn't catch something from the bite until later, and then it ruined his career, and he was sick as a dog. And people are like, yeah, that it's right when Zappe took over that really ended your tenure here. But let's just pretend it's what we do here on What If Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So Bailey Zappe has played in NFL games over the course of 2 seasons. He's won NFL games. He's played well. He's also played poorly, which I say is just basically a younger version of Jacoby Brissett. They're both guys who are mid-round picks who were thrust into the Patriots spotlight as rookies, who, have had some success, have had some failures. They kind of have similar career trajectories, and I think Bailey Zappe will probably get another chance somewhere. But they're not all that different. And he is the incumbent. Everybody else here is new, and I know the offense is new, so that probably benefits Jacoby Brissett. But Bailey Zappe has been there, done that in this building, most recently at Gillette Stadium. I don't think anybody in the world wants to see it, personally. Other than maybe the family and Zappe. Fans don't want to see it. Brissett don't want to see it. Mayo, Elliott Wolf don't want to see it. Like, what the F? I signed a guy for $8 million. I drafted a guy 3rd overall, and this guy's the best quarterback on the team in July and August. So I think it's a problem. And updating a discussion we had yesterday on the podcast, which you're not supposed to do. Pretend I didn't say yesterday. On a recent Six Rings podcast,
well done.
updated.
Well done. Pro move.
somebody I would say that's in the know who I was in discussions with didn't rule out the home opener for Drake May's debut. And I said, that seems.
Oh.
But they were like, yeah, I think whenever he starts, it'll be at home. There will be a PR buzz to it. There will be a, bumping tickets and whatever you want to call it. He also enjoyed my theory of the post-Niners game, that return home against the Dolphins, as a possibility relatively early in the season. I think that's week 5, coming back to Gillette.
That would be the under on my 6.5 propositional as to when Drake May.
So take the under is what I was told. I was sort of indicated to take the under. But whatever, that aside, Bailey Zappe would be a problem. And that's why, there was even, was it Burt Breer who wrote a Mayo piece kind of indicating they might even pare it down to 3 quarterbacks by training camp? And if so, everybody assumed, I wrote the column, like Drake May is the odd man. I mean, Bailey Zappe is the odd man out. Like, everybody kind of knows it. Everybody's
the odd man out. Oh my God.
No. Drake May, not the odd man out. Drake May, the future, the phenom, the cocksure, whatever you want to call it. He is the great one. Hopefully, fingers crossed, toes crossed, whatever I can cross. But if you're building a culture, which is what Gerard Mayo is, right? He's building his culture, his way of doing business.
I've heard we've taken down silos and we're taking a collaborative approach. That's what I've been told.
Yeah. So now the corn is just laying in a pile. There's no silo to put the corn in. It's just laying in a pile.
Why is all the corn? Why is all the grain just in a huge pot? It's got flies. People are just helping themselves.
It's going to get rotty. It's going to get ruined. It's a terrible idea. You need silos in some form. But if Bailey Zappe is, if we're all writing it, July 23rd, 24th, 25th, August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, like preseason, if Bailey Zappe, even the blind and the deaf know he's the best quarterback on the Patriots roster in July and August, don't you have to start him? Can you not start him? How do you defy logic? How do you defy competition? Especially if you're if the other option is Jacoby Brissett. Who cares which journeyman starts? And I know technically Zappe's not a journeyman. He hasn't left yet. Although, little known fact, journeyman, the way we use it, is not proper. It actually tells your level of skill in the trades, and not that you've bumped around to a bunch of teams. We've kind of changed that over the years. But if you're planning on starting Jacoby Brissett and Alex Van Pelt, Elliott Wolf, everybody sets a starter, and Bailey Zappe is the best. Is that me freezing? Somebody froze.
That was you freezing. Yes. I think basically.
Oh,
I think basically what happened. I think that was such a pivotal moment. We just wanted to freeze it in time for a minute to allow the audience to ponder the point you were making.
You have to start Bailey Zappe. That's how you ponder it, right? You have to start him. It sets a terrible precedent if you don't. Terrible precedent.
I mean, if everybody that goes to camp, from the fans to the media, and of course all team personnel alike, and they're as heavily invested in the success of Drake May as anyone, especially and or including the people that pay to sit their asses in the seats and buy the $8.40 16-ounce beers at the stadium, my ass. And if it's clear as day, if it's clear as a bell, if you can see straight through all the piled up corn out of the silos, that Bailey Zappe is the best quarterback on the field in the last week of July and all throughout August, and he'll have 2 home exhibition games and 1 road exhibition game to prove that he is, then why in the world would you feel the need to rush Drake May to pasture or start Jacoby Brissett just because you paid him $8 million? It could be an $8 million mentorship of Drake May. It could just be an $8 million camp. You had so much money. And again, it's not our money, technically. Although, again, we're the ones who pay for those $8.40 16-ounce beers and make that money for the Kraft family and the New England Patriots. If it's clear as day that there is one quarterback that is head and shoulders above the other ones, why would you do somebody a solid or a favor and do your team a disservice and put anyone who isn't the best quarterback out there to try to win games? Now, look, we have seen Bailey Zappe at his best in games like against Cleveland and Alex Van Pelt's Browns and Jacoby Brissett, no less, in 2022, a game that led me to write a column that the 2022 Patriots draft class was panning out wonderfully. Cut to a few weeks later, and there's Andy Hart shoving it in my face like a soiled rug at the house, and I was a bad dog. 2023, Bailey Zappe is forced to come into multiple games. Mac Jones was benched not once, not twice, not thrice, but four times on the season. Possibly the most benchings a single starting quarterback has ever received in the NFL. Finally leading Bailey Zappe to start. And at times, it was actually pretty good. Now, there were games where he was terrible. Of course, he had no offensive weapons around him. The Chargers game, the final game against the Jets in the snow, farewell Belichick. But has Jacoby Brissett played a half of football in the last couple of years as good as that first half against the Steelers back in December of 2023, where he threw 3 touchdown passes? Zappe also wasn't that bad against the Broncos as well on Christmas Eve. Hell, Drake May should probably go up to Bailey Zappe and say, hey, bro, I heard that because of the way you played at times in 2023, that's the reason why I'm here. Thank you very much.
First of all, Jacoby Brissett, I don't know. My guess is no, I haven't watched a lot of Jacoby Brissett in recent years. In fact, pretty much stopped. Actually, I watched a little when he was still on the Colts, and that was pretty much the end of my Jacoby Brissett watching era of my life. And hopefully it'll be short again. No disrespect to him, but I don't really have much desire to spin my wheels as an observer and watch him start games and play too much. Okay, so Zapp looked pretty damn good versus the Pack too. Okay, I will also tell you, Zapp has looked putrid this summer. I don't think he's played very well this summer. I think the realization of his lot in life that he is just kind of keeping a seat warm, holding a camp arm, camp body. Maybe they're waiting to see if they can trade him, which that's another aspect of this. You could trade him. You could say, listen, we invested in Drake May to be the future. We know that Bailey Zappe is not the future. And, if we can get a 5th round pick for him and recoup some asset that we can then turn into something else down the road, you can make that argument coming off of what we're talking about, that he had a great July and August. You could make that argument, sell high, because
so
a year ago,
Patriots' best interest, though, if I may jump in, if it's in so potentially, as opposed to most people that are thinking like, I want to see Joe Milton's arm, I want to see Drake May starting. Hey, we spent all this money on Brissett. This should be the trio. This should be the triumvirate. Yes, I understand that. But wouldn't it then be in the Patriots' best interest to showcase Bailey Zappe showing up and showing out this summer? Because quarterback is at such a premium in the NFL, 65, 66 starters last season, to have a team say, you know what, why wouldn't we put a 6th rounder out there on this kid because he's shown that he can actually play quarterback at a reasonably competent professional level?
Yeah. Now, I don't think so. He was cut last year and nobody had any interest, right? There was a few teams that wanted him on the practice squad, but nobody was like, I'm going to claim Bailey Zappe because he's a good quarterback who's played in the league.
Right.
So there's limited interest. And I would argue he's undersized. He's underarmed. He does not have a strong arm. And a lot of people love that, aspect of the quarterback game these days. But I do want to flip it around. And this is stupid. I always love to start points and arguments with this is stupid. It lets people know what's coming.
But see, the thing is, though, like, you're setting the bar so low that there's nowhere to go but up if it's actually an intelligent or salient point. And by the way, I should point out also that you heard here first on this particular podcast, where people get most of their sources and takes that they then snake from us and mutate into their own somewhere else. I told you I had heard actually down here on this very Cape Cod that Bill O'Brien was not in any way, shape, or form impressed by or interested in coordinating for Bailey Zappe last summer, well before the season got underway. I think the quote was, I have no idea what the F people see in this guy.
Yeah, I agree with Bill O'Brien. And I feel bad because, he's, again, the Peter principle. You ascend to a level upon which you fail. Like, he put up great numbers in college and one of those wide open offenses at Western Kentucky or whatever the hell.
62 tutties at Kentucky, bro.
That's awesome. Live off that. Go back to Western Kentucky, work at a car dealership, sell cars, shake hands, kiss babies, and be like a local phenom. That's awesome. You're not an NFL quarterback. I don't believe Bailey Zappe is an NFL quarterback. I think we've seen that exposed at times. As much as we can list the good games, we can list the bad throws, the bad games, the mistakes he made. Somebody's backing up outside. I don't know if you can hear that. Beep, beep. They're telling me your point's stupid.
Back a pile of L's in your driveway for what you're about to say.
Right. But this is stupid. Remember 2001, there was a $100 million quarterback. There was an expensive backup quarterback. And then there was this weak-armed, late-round quarterback who worked really hard, and son of a bitch, he was the best guy in training camp, right? And he moved up the depth chart to the 2 slot, and then an injury happened, and then Tom Brady happened, and we retired number 12 shortly thereafter.
I will allow this only because I could see Jacoby Brissett being the giraffe on stilts that was Drew Bledsoe at the time. And maybe getting us start the seed. Like, certainly Bailey Zappe's footnote in Patriots history has already been written mostly. Right now, he is again just an able-minded, undersized, adequate armed placeholder. Drake May will never be usurped by or supplanted by Bailey Zappe.
No.
That said, I could see Jacoby Brissett. Now, look, he's more fleet of foot and a tad more mobile, if you will, than Bledsoe was at that particular time in his Patriots tenure. But if, listen, just because Brissett's familiar with the offense, just because Jacoby Brissett has worked with Alex Van Pelt before and is presumed to be the starter, it doesn't mean that it's all just going to fall. All the pieces will fall in place for him as well. Maybe Zappe will have a good camp. Maybe Bailey Zappe needs that. We've been discussing, like, what's going on over this 5-week interim between the end of mandatory mini camp in June and the start of proper training camp, like July 24th, I believe it is, when the public is first allowed in. What's going on during that time? Maybe Bailey Zappe is using that time as a veteran to get his body and his arm and his mind right and say, look, obviously our future is not in Foxborough, but if we go in there and we kick ass with tanker gas and do the absolute best we can, we could land Team Zappe a spot somewhere as a backup on a team where he may get legitimate reps. Like, I don't know. Look, who does Seattle have? Freaking Geno Smith. And is Drew Lock still there?
No.
Oh, he left, right?
Yeah. Trying to think who their backup is.
I think they drafted somebody. I'll find out. Thank God I have what's known as a computer in front of me with this magical thing called the internet, which
so while you do that, let me. So
but there are other places. Maybe freaking what's his face? Maybe Sean Payton wants 6 quarterbacks that are undersized on his roster.
Can never have enough quarterbacks. I always say you don't want 1 quarterback, you want 6 of them. That's the perfect way to build an organization.
Yes. They my apologies. They have former Cleveland Brown and XFL star PJ Walker as their 3rd stringer. They traded for Sam Howell, who, if I were the New England Patriots, I would have as well, because Sam Howell and Drake May supposedly are super tight. And Sam Howell got done dirty by lots of dysfunction in Washington and also poor line play. Nota bene, New England Patriots.
Okay, so let's break this down. Bailey Zappe is the best quarterback on the field. Everybody agrees. Fans, reporters. So we get to the end of September. Could you not, as you said, just sort of flip-flop Brissett and Zappe? You were planning on starting Brissett for 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever the plan sort of loosely in your head was. We have this veteran journeyman we're going to start, and then it's going to go to Drake May when he's kind of ready. Couldn't you just start Bailey Zappe for those games, and Brissett is now your backup? And then if he falls on his face, it makes an easier transition to the far more talented, bigger, more athletic, bigger armed quarterback you have in Drake May. You can even cut Bailey Zappe in week 3, week 4, when you go, yeah, we gave you your shot. Like, remember Zach Sudfeld, who was the phenom of the summer, and then he sucked when he hit regular season action, and you cut him, and he was gone. Like, by week 3, I want to say he was gone.
Again, another one of those, like, and there are how many, like, joining the ranks of, like, Brian Timms and so many other camp heroes that when they got on the field, is like,
yeah, not good.
Yeah, not
so
good.
Couldn't you just do that? And therefore you gave Zappe the opportunity that he earned in the summer. And then you quickly said, but we're a what have you done for me lately organization. You need to prove it each week. He proved he wasn't good enough to play. You cut him, you move on. Wouldn't that be simple? Or the other option here is, what if Zappe, well, I guess this isn't really, I mean, Zappe has stunk in the summer. I'll go back to that. He has been bad. He doesn't measure up physically, stature-wise. I think he's become frustrated with his lot in life. He's resigned to the fact that nobody wants me here. I'm just a camp body. I'm out of here as soon as they find a reason or a time to get rid of me. So I guess the flip side of that is the trading him. I think that's the question. If you say he's really good, I think your 2 options are you start him over Brissett and you just slot him into that for a week or 2, 3, or you try to lure somebody into trading for him. And if he's as good as we're saying, if he's so good that everybody knows he's the best quarterback on the roster, maybe you can steal a 6th-round pick out of somebody and say, long-term interest to the organization, that 6th-round pick is thank you for your services, Bailey Zappe. You're going to contribute to the future by we'll draft a guard in the 6th round next year that maybe can help Drake May down the road. So I think those are the two outcomes if this happens. Now, I do want to rewind real quick. I don't think there's a shot in hell this happening. I think there's a better shot in hell that he's sulky McSulk and he's cut halfway through the first week of camp.
Jeff Stenberg watching live now on YouTube. Bailey Zappe more likely the next starter for the San Antonio Brahmas of the UFL than he is an NFL starter. While you were Foxborough filibustering there, Mr. Hart out of the South Coast, I was checking some other depth charts. Like the New Orleans Saints, their quarterback depth chart is Derek Carr and whatever is left of his arm and his God and his will and his way. Jake Hayner, Spencer Rattler, and Taysom Hill. I don't know. You know, you never know. The
Spencer
Cleveland
Rattler,
Browns,
I thought he was one former scout's, best quarterback in the draft or whatever that guy all over Twitter who loved him was.
There was a time when don't forget, I can't believe he fell to the 5th round. And wasn't it mostly due to the fact that he was part of that like weird reality series and people couldn't shake the images of him being like a jackass?
Is kind of ridiculous. Yeah, that was like 6 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it is. Like, I mean, first of all, any of us who were the center of a reality show in our teen years probably would not look great, would probably have that held against us.
One of my favorites, a regular participant whenever we do 6 Rings and Football things live across the WEEI and Fitzy GFY socials. Jordan Watson. Zappe is like Bud Light. Good when it's there and somewhat gets the job done, but it's never your first choice. It's a very
right. He's no Miller Lite. He needs
He's
to
no Narragansett. I will tell you that.
No Narragansett.
Early Sullivan. No way Bailey Zappe cracks the Brahmas' vaunted QB rotation. Hey, listen. Actually, like if Bailey Zappe were to catch on with it, let's say he's released, he catches on with another team as a 3rd stringer. You're still making a couple $100,000 a year to play, coach or make notes on football.
Making more than that. The minimum's like $900K.
No way. For a quarterback or for a player in the NFL?
Any player in the NFL, the minimum is like $900K.
Hold on. NFL, look at this. My goodness, the stats and research department right now is just going off.
What year are you living in? A couple 100,000.
600s. This year, the minimum salary for an NFL player is, are you ready?
Sure.
$750,000.
And I think that's a first-year player. He'd be a 3rd-year player, so it'll be higher than that.
That ain't bad. You know what I'll gladly do? Run reps in practice all week long, stretch, talk to the assistant coaches, help out the starter, and hold a clipboard and, wait till 11:30 to find out if I'm the emergency quarterback, the backup, or I'm sitting my ass down on Sunday. That's
especially as a quarterback, because you don't have to get lit up or anything. It's not like you're the jack of all trades, wedge breaker. I need you on defense, get the crap kicked out of you.
Does the wedge breaker even exist anymore now with this new kickoff? And by the way, side note, that may have to be because just as a little footnote here for the audience, going forward, the What If Wednesdays will continue all throughout the season, all throughout the offseason until we actually kick off the proper football season in September. But some will be historical deep dives like we've done previously. Maybe even next week when Andy's out, we'll do another historical one with my friends from the Untold Patriots Stories podcast. But sometimes
that sounded very specific for a maybe.
Okay, it's a super specific, definitive maybe, which is exactly what's at the core and the heart of this podcast. But sometimes it'll also just be like, we're open to suggestions as well. Like, what if the new kickoff rule works? What do you do? Because they've already hasn't the UFL actually gone away from their own kickoff rule, which the NFL has now adopted for this coming season?
Is this where I let you know I don't believe I watched a single down of the UFL this year?
The crazy thing is I loved the XFL, and then this year it just sort of came on, and the promotion was so minimal that I didn't watch very much at all. I saw Tom Brady in the booth. He looked nice.
Yeah. No, I have no idea what they're using for a kickoff rule in the UFL. Just going to be honest.
Went back to the NFL kickoff rule, so.
Oh, so that would be kind of funny. I actually think it's going to be tremendously chaotic and fun, and I'm guessing they're not going to stick with it because maybe it's seen as too gimmicky and big playish, and I don't know. But we'll see. Because there's already talk of some people not even utilizing it, just taking the fair catch and taking the ball on the 30-yard line. So,
okay, so right now, Yeah, that sure. And there's also been talk about who was it who was saying like, oh, it was wasn't it the Kansas City Chiefs special teams coordinator who said, I may not even have Harrison Butker out there on kickoffs because I want to use somebody that
Because he'll be in the kitchen making dinner.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see
Having
how
babies.
First time that guy misses a kick this season, and he's a damn good kicker and doesn't miss very often. First time that guy misses a kick this season, make sure you head over to twitter.com. It should be a rip. Andy, I'm checking your favorite website, Poof, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, ranking all 32 NFL quarterbacks in anticipation of the 2022 season. Where does Poof have the New England Patriots two-headed monster of Brissett and May ranked?
32nd?
26th.
Okay.
Ahead of
I was swayed there. I was swayed there by, I know Chris Sims didn't even have Drake May in his top like 40 quarterbacks or 45 quarterbacks or something. Yeah, but no, if I were doing it, I think that's probably fair. You have a journeyman proven starter in Jacoby Brissett. He is what he is. He can win. He can lose. That's pretty much how the games work, Andy. And then you have Drake May. You have a guy with a lot of talent that when he plays, you're going to be hopeful and there's going to be mistakes and there's going to be plays. So who's behind them?
All right. So they are in tier 6, mostly because of Drake May. It's called Tier 6, The Next Generation. Anthony Richardson, 24.
Is that a movie title? Tier 6, The Next Generation.
I love the 5th book, too. Yeah, Deshaun Watson. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. He's 23rd. Good God. What a mess that guy is.
We have Alex Van Pelt.
25th, Bryce Young. 26, Jacoby Brissett / Drake May. 27, Jaden Daniels. Then we get to, and then 28, Will Levis. Then we get to Tier 7, the finale, the holdovers. Daniel Jones at 29, Aiden O'Connell / Gardner Minshew for the Raiders. 30th. 31st, Sam Darnold / JJ McCarthy. And 32nd, Stiddy and Bo Nix and Zach Wilson in Denver. Wow, there's the potential for some. I haven't worked blue at all in this podcast yet. There is the potential for some super shitty quarterback play this year.
Well, I mean, in general, and a lot of it hinges, or is hingent upon, as I like to say, the rookies. If Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and Bo Nix can play, that all changes because you have exciting young rookie class. If they stink and they look like Bryce Young, well, and Bryce Young, your guy, you're buying Bryce Young's cards. So
told you on our previous episode of the podcast that the card buyers are all speculating on Bryce Young that he's got nowhere to go. But up. Also, another quality comment from Jeff Stenberg watching live on YouTube. 900,000 working for the Pats and another 83K selling Hyundais for Ernie Buck. That's a pretty good living he'd be making if he stuck around.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right, so Andy, let's wrap it on this one. This has been a far more interesting and robust, playful dialogue than I'd originally anticipated. Just give me a let's put it out there so we have a number to look back upon whenever this goes sideways and Bailey Zappe is cut by August 3rd. Give me a percentage chance of Bailey Zappe looking like the best quarterback and stealing a start or two for the Patriots this season.
0.001.
Oh, I was going to say just go with his jersey number, 4% chance.
No, that's way too high in my opinion. Way too high. So yes, 0.001. That's what I got you.
Oh, wow. All right.
17%? You're out of your mind.
Greg Donahue, 17% chance. Don't you know 17 is a haunted number in Patriots jersey lore?
Did he forget the decimal? Is that like 0.17? Like, oh, he LOL'd. Okay.
All right. He lolled himself. Okay. Very good. I say 4% chance just because I'll give him for the number of starts that he's won in the NFL. I'll go with 4. You say 0.001. Yeah, it's not going to happen. But again, we have to consider it. And that's part of the fun of the argumentative nature of these What If Wednesdays and the hypotheticals of the offseason. All right, Mr. Hart will be on your radio waves 2 more times on this particular week. And then he'll be off for a nice little 4th of July vacation. I'll be on your waves as well. I'll be manning the ship next week on the 6 Rings and Football Things podcast as we get into July, which will be the first month of the proper season with training camp beginning July 24th. And once we get on the ride, we are on it well into January, February, and beyond. And hopefully this year, Andy, we'll actually be doing podcasts about the current state of the New England Patriots and not by 2 weeks prior to Thanksgiving saying, all right, it's time to focus on the draft. So fingers crossed, huh?
No, we'll be studying wide receivers and tackles.
Oh, boy. All right. Mr. They could win 6 or they could win 0. I'd prefer.
Wait, I never said they could win 6.
Didn't you say there's the okay. All right. That's enough.
I said either or, more likely 6 or 0. Give me the 0.
It is more probable than not to use some exponent fueled with Ted Wellesian language. All right. For Hart, this is Fitzy. Thank you guys once again for watching live, tuning in, subscribing, and listening to 6 Rings and Football Things. Another fun What If Wednesday. We'll be back with another one of these a week from now. And as always, check your feed, turn on those notifications, smash that subscribe, and tell your friends 6 Rings and Football Things is where it's at for the best football talk in town. We'll see you later. Thanks again, everybody. This has been 6 Rings and Football Things. Good day. God bless. And as always, go Pats.